Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Anti-News Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Grasso, and thank you for tuning in. Today's date is December 13th, and as always, I've got 5 happy stories for you. First off, a friendship is made thanks to a wrong number, a teenager uncovers ancient artifacts, and solar farms being built in landfills. After the music break, crows return a man's kindness, and Mexican Jaguars are on the rise. We've all either been on the receiving or making end of a wrong number. Most of the time, as soon as we realize what's going on, the one who made the call apologizes, we hang up, and we all move on with our lives without thinking much of it. It's either just a minor nuisance or a slightly funny moment. But for a woman in Florida and a man in Rhode Island, a wrong number call sparked 20 years of friendship that's still going strong to this day. 20 years ago, Gladys Hankerson, who lives in Florida, was trying to call her sister in Maryland. Instead of her sister, though, Mike Moffat from Rhode Island picked up. According to him, at first it was just like her saying, "Oh, I'm sorry," and she's really Southern, very hospitable, polite, very sweet. She's like, "I'm so sorry, child," and then she hangs up real quick. Gladys, who's now 80 years old, continued to call Mike until he finally asked where she was from and learned that she had been trying to call her sister. The two stayed in touch, talking about their families and how they were doing. Mike is a father of 3, and Gladys is a mother of 10, and some of her children remember when the two started talking. What started as casual conversations eventually grew into a deep friendship. One example of this, according to Mike, and I quote, "She had her son call at one time to let me know that somebody close to her passed away. He was like, 'My mom just wanted me to call and let you know.' All of a sudden, our relationship became not like a superficial check-in call. I understood what it meant to her." Finally, on the day before Thanksgiving, Mike traveled down to Florida with his wife and kids on vacation when he realized that he was only 2 miles from Gladys. When he arrived at her house, he introduced himself by saying, "This is Mike from Rhode Island." Gladys was happily surprised, and the two hugged and took pictures together. Mike had his wife and kids wait in the car since he didn't want to impose on Gladys, but he said that the next time he visited, he'd introduce them to her. Having been in a long-distance friendship for a long time myself with multiple people, I know how hard it can be to maintain those kinds of friendships. However, they're just as rewarding as any other kind of friendship, and can give you insight into another part of the world. The keys to maintaining a long-distance relationship are communication, understanding, and a willingness to learn. Tone can sometimes be lost when talking in text, so if you're ever unsure about the tone someone is using, don't be afraid to ask for clarification. Relationships of any kind take work, but in the end, they're more than worth it. What do penicillin, silly putty, and post-it notes all have in common? All 3 were discovered by accident. This just goes to show that just because something was an accident doesn't mean that it can't be incredible. Without these accidental discoveries, who knows when, or even if, we would have discovered them, along with the many other accidental discoveries. Things we find by accident can not only benefit the future, but give us insights into the past, as is the case with the accidental discovery made by an English teenager with a metal detector. 13-year-old Millie Hardwick from Suffolk was out in a field with her dad, the two using metal detectors to see if they could find anything. How a metal detector works is by sending out an electromagnetic field from the search coil to the ground. Any metal object within that field will become energized and send back an electromagnetic field of their own in return. The closer the object is, the stronger the signal will be. This was Millie's third time out with the detector, and since she wasn't quite familiar with it yet, she wasn't sure what she was doing when her detector went off. Millie told the BBC, "It was my third time out, and I didn't quite know what I was doing. I got a signal and yelled at my dad, and when he started digging, he went, 'This could be an axe.' And he was joking around about it." However, the joke turned out to be accurate, as the source of the signal Millie got was a pile of 65 buried objects, mostly consisting of bronze axes. The discovery has made her an overnight celebrity in the detecting community, and is an amazing archaeological discovery. Millie and her father uncovered about 20 objects before they covered the site up for archaeologists to come take a look at them the next day. The axes, along with everything else, are thought to date back to 1300 BCE and could help give insight into Britain's Bronze Age, which started about 4,300 years ago. It's surprising to think of how many things we have now that were discovered by accident. After all, without post-it notes, what would office workers stick to their computers? For real though, the miracle of discovery has propelled humans further along in our evolution than almost anything else. With it, we can learn about our past, improve our today, and give hope for a better tomorrow. A necessary evil is described as something unpleasant that must be accepted in order to achieve a particular result. Landfills are a good example of this, as they are mountains of trash all centered in one place. But without them, the trash would be all over our homes and cities with no place to go. Somewhat similarly, solar panels could be called an inconvenient good. Solar panels turn energy from the sun into clean electricity, but they also take up a lot of land that could be used for something else. While two wrongs don't make a right, a necessary evil and an inconvenient good can come together to help solve both issues. The nonprofit Rocky Mountain Institute, or RMI for short, believes that by turning landfills into solar farms, the U.S. could increase the nation's solar energy capacity by nearly 60%, or 63 gigawatts. Specifically, they're looking at capped landfills and brownfields. A capped landfill is when a landfill has reached its maximum capacity, and so is capped with a layer of concrete or asphalt to cover contaminated materials such as landfill waste or contaminated soil. Brownfields, on the other hand, are plots of land that were either previously developed but are not currently in use, that may be contaminated in some way. It also refers to land that has been used for industrial or commercial use with suspected pollution in it, such as soil contamination from hazardous waste. Typically, solar farms are built on large meadows or other open plots of land, which often have a high price tag or the possibility of a bidding war. By building solar farms on capped landfills or brownfields, those are completely avoided and will help the communities that live near landfills as well. There are some complications, however. For a start, solar panels are usually secured on concrete struts built into the ground, but this would break the cap on the landfill. This also means that the panels won't be able to follow the sun, and so they won't be able to get as much of a charge. Even so, the benefits outweigh the negatives, as one done in Annapolis, Maryland has shown, with 55,000 panels built on an 80-acre landfill generating enough power for 2,500 people. In the US, there are as many as 10,000 closed landfills, 4,000 of which could be turned into solar farms right away. This is one of the more literal examples of one man's trash becoming another man's treasure. Solar panels, even if they can't move to follow the sun, are a great source of energy. For as long as the sun's visible, they can collect power. Renewable energy as a whole is a treasure that we should all work on improving, so that we no longer have to deal with the trash that comes from things such as fossil fuels and coal. Another thing that's seen as a treasure is music. So let's go to the music break. That was Your Next Fantasy by Pierce. Now on to the last two stories. Did you know that crows can remember faces? If you make one angry, you might find yourself being attacked by it even years later. Alternatively, if you're nice to one, it will also remember you and might try to repay your kindness with kindness of its own. We don't always realize how smart crows can be, but they can remember faces, use tools, communicate, and even make gifts, as one man discovered. 6 years ago, Stuart Dalkis rescued 2 crow chicks that had fallen out of their nest in his front yard in Seattle. He enjoyed listening to the sound of baby birds chirping to be fed, and so when he saw the 2 chicks on the ground, he knew he had to do something. Despite the misconception saying otherwise, birds won't abandon their chicks if a person touches them. And despite the squawking of the parents, Stuart was able to return the babies to the nest. He also left out some food and water at the base of the tree in case the chicks fell out again. After that, he started throwing bird food out for the crows, and the crows took notice. When he went out to feed the crows, specifically a mated pair and their 2-year-old kids, he noticed something unusual. In the dish that he had been putting their food, there was a fir sprig that had been threaded through a pull tab. Stuart told the dodo, "I noticed it straight away because I'm kind of sensitive about trash going where it belongs. But the pull tab being threaded onto the sprig of fir wasn't normal, and I hung onto it." The next day, he was stunned to find a second pull tab decorated fir sprig. As he said on social media, "This isn't only generous, it's creative. It's art. My mind is blown." He's maintained a close relationship with the family of corvids, and even plans on getting their gifts tattooed so that he can take them with him wherever he goes. Stuart also told the dodo, "They'll follow along when I take my walks, landing on the wires along the way. The adult male is very amiable and will sometimes fly within a few feet, swooping by to say, 'Here I am.'" A lot of people think of emotions as purely a human thing, but that's not the case. Animals can express sadness, happiness, anger, joy, worry, and kindness. Stuart was kind to them, and so they were kind in return. We can all stand to learn from this, that kindness should be rewarded with kindness. In early Mesoamerican cultures, the jaguar was revered by the indigenous people who lived with them, and the major Mesoamerican cultures had some kind of jaguar god figure. In Mayan mythology, the jaguar was considered the ruler of the underworld, and given their powerful bite and hunting prowess, it's not hard to see why. Due in part to habitat loss, jaguars have become a near-threatened species. But thanks to conservation work, these mighty cats won't be ruling the underworld from there just yet. Between 2010 and 2018 in Mexico, the jaguar population has grown by 800 members. The findings of the first 2 censuses done on jaguars in the country is proof that Mexico's national strategy to protect jaguars is working. Because of their elusive nature, ecologists have never been able to properly count Mexico's jaguar population before, but, and I apologize if I mispronounce anything, ecologist Gerardo Ceballos of the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico and founder of Mexico's National Alliance for Jaguar Conservation used the results of the 2010 census to create a national strategy. This strategy is endorsed by both government policy and scientists alike, with the goal of protecting jaguars and helping their population grow. While not involved with the study, jaguar researcher Ronaldo Goncalves Morato said about the association, "This is very important. They are connecting science with conservation plans. It can be a good model for researchers, not only working with jaguars, but all the other big cats or other species that are critically endangered." Ceballos and a team of 20 ecologists around the country have been using photo capture traps to determine where jaguars live and how many roam in each of the country's protected conservation regions. From there, they made plans to address the major issues that affect jaguars, such as avoiding conflict with livestock owners and preserving wildlife corridors. The former is especially hard to deal with, as the livestock owners want to keep their animals from being eaten, which would sometimes lead to them killing the jaguars in the fence. To help solve this, the government paid people living near protected areas to not deforest them, compensated them for cattle eaten by jaguars, and provided electric fences to prevent jaguars from killing livestock in the first place. The Mexican government and the National Alliance for Jaguar Conservation plan to expand the Calakmul Biosphere Reserve in the southern Yucatan Peninsula in 2022. they are going to increase it from 723,185 hectares to more than 1.3 million. And all of this was motivated by a desire to protect jaguars. Jaguars are predators, but they're also an umbrella species, meaning that not only do they cover a lot of ground, but they're widespread too. By protecting them, we help protect other species, even those that jaguars prey on. Without them, who knows how the balance of nature would be skewed. As if acting as a reminder of the Mesoamerican beliefs, jaguars act as a bringer of life thanks to their protection, but also as a bringer of death by remaining fierce predators. Whether gods exist at all is a debate for another day, but the jaguar does exist, and it's important we do our part to protect them. Here's today's advice. Make sure you're getting enough rest. With how busy things can get, it can be easy to start thinking that you can just put off sleep for a while longer to get things done. But without proper rest, your brain can't function. Sleep is when the brain gets to recharge, clean itself up, and get ready for the next day. So always try to get at least 8 hours of sleep a night. That's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to support this podcast, you can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Google and Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spreaker. Links can be found in the description, and until next time, remember that there is still some good in the world, you just gotta look for it. Take care out there, everyone.